Hey, my name is Mike Breaux, in case we never met before. I'm better known as Jody's dad around this place, Debbie's husband around this place, and they let me teach a few times a year, which is always a highlight for me when I see mission on my calendar. It's like, yes, I can't wait to get to do that. And we're wrapping up a series today that we've been calling Name Dropper, where we've been looking at the different I am statements that Jesus made. And it's been a really cool journey of getting to know him better. And if you missed any of the installments of this series, you can get online or get on the app and catch up. But as we wrap this up today, I want to give you a little background about this whole I am thing. Some of you may have heard of this guy. His name was Moses. He was this guy that God used to deliver the people of Israel out of slavery in Egypt. He was the part the Red Sea, bring down the Ten Commandments guy. You know the guy I'm talking about? His name was Moses. There's a really cool encounter, and you can find it over in Exodus chapter 3, the second book of the Bible, where God meets Moses on the backside of this mountain called Sinai. And Moses, he's on the run. He's a fugitive, been hiding out for 40 years, tending sheep in the wilderness. And God speaks to him and tells him that he has chosen him to lead the children of Israel out of bondage. And of course, Moses says, yes, I can't wait. I'm your man. Bring it on, Pharaoh. No, he doesn't say that. He stutters and he makes excuses. You talking to me? And then he says this to God. I think this is cool. He says, now suppose I go. I love this. He said, hypothetically speaking, let's just say I say yes to this. So suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you. And they ask me, oh, what's his name? Then what am I going to tell them? And God says to Moses, I am who I am. That's what you're to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. It just gives me chills every time I read it, because it's the first time where God drops his name. I am. Always have been, always will be. Tell them, I am sent you. So 40 some odd generations later, Jesus shows up as the eternal God in the flesh, and guess what he says? I am. I am the good shepherd. I am the gate. I am the door. I am the bread of life. I am the light of the world. I am the resurrection and the life. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am. You know, sometimes it only takes a few words to make a lasting impact. You might hear like an amazing 18-minute TED Talk or a 25-minute Mike, Jody, Jen, or Taylor talk. Or you might read like an incredible 500-page novel, or you might see like a little thought-provoking 140-character tweet, and it completely changes your perspective on something. But sometimes, all it takes is just like 3 words. I mean, there's power in some 3-word phrases like, I love you, right? I'm sorry. Please forgive me. You just flunked. You just passed. You're cancer-free. The chemo worked. 1 year sober. God is good. Don't call me. I'll call you. You are blocked. I am pregnant. We're having triplets. We are broke. Sometimes it's just 3 words. 3-word phrases can make a lasting impact, but there's none quite as life-changing as these 3 words from the lips of Jesus. Remain in me. In his teaching, Jesus would use a lot of farming imagery because a lot of people in the crowd were in the agriculture business, and he would talk about seeds and crops and grain and livestock and plows and barns. And he would talk about vineyards a lot. Now, if you've ever been to like Napa, or you've driven up to maybe Paso Robles, you've gotten a glimpse of what Israel looked like in Jesus' day. There were vineyards all over the hillsides and valleys. In fact, the nation of Israel was known to the people of Jesus' day as the vine. And then Jesus comes along and tells us, guys, listen, things are changing. And he drops his name again. He says, I am the vine. Actually, I always have been, but now a place is being replaced by a person. And then along with the name drop, he gives them these 3 words in John chapter 15. He says, remain in me, and I'll remain in you. For a branch cannot produce fruit if it's severed from the vine. And you cannot be fruitful unless you remain in me. Yes, I am the vine, and you are the branches. Those who remain in me and I in them will produce much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. He's saying if you want to live with power, if you want to live with a sense of completeness and purpose and deep satisfaction, if you want to stay clean and sober, if you want to be a great dad, if you want to be a great mom, if you want all your relationships to flourish, if you want to produce real and lasting fruit with your life that leaves a legacy, then these three words will change everything. Remain in me. Now, the word used there for remain literally means to abide, to stay, to dwell, to live, to establish a permanent residence. So to remain in Christ is to stay connected, to abide, to dwell, to establish this connection, this permanent connection with the great I am. The one who is stronger than we are, the one who is wiser than we are, the one who is more loving, more courageous, more powerful than we are. He is the life-giving vine. And we are the branches. And the job of the branch? Simply to stay connected. And a whole bunch of fruit is guaranteed to every branch that'll just do that one singular job. I like what my friend Steve Carter says about this. He says, we got to keep the remain thing the main thing. We got to keep the remain thing the main thing. See, we prefer to do things ourselves. At least that's just me, in our own way. That's just where we gravitate as human beings. And Jesus is saying, listen, that's what got you in trouble in the first place. Depend on me. Stay connected to me. Draw life from my life. Keep the remain thing the main thing. Now, I am in no way like a horticulturist or a botanist. I know very little about plants, vines, grasses, and trees except how to kill them. So no green thumb here. But you know, it's weird how sometimes you remember certain things from tests you took like decades ago. I can't tell you what they all mean, but I can actually remember a few botany terms from my high school and college science classes. Terms like photosynthesis, chlorophyll, germination, deciduous, epidermis, pistil, dormancy. And strangely enough, I can remember the terms xylem and phloem. And I actually know what they do. They're part of like the vascular system of a tree or a plant, kind of like our arteries and veins, that they're contained in the sap, and they carry vital nutrients up and down the trunk to the branches, the leaves, the blossoms, the fruit, etc. And the reason I remember their function is because I was studying for a test one time in high school, and I memorized it this way: xylem up and phloem down. I know it's goofy, it really is. But I remember it 40 years later. The xylem carries the watery sap containing all these minerals up, and the phloem carries sap full of all these important sugars that manufacture in photosynthesis down. So it's xylem up and phloem down. And the only way any of this works is for this to be a connection. A severed branch has none of that going on. No sap, no nutrients, no blooms, no leaves, no fruit, no life. So Jesus says, remain in me. Let your roots go down into the soil of my unfailing love. Let my spirit move up and down in you, filling you with life-giving nutrients you need in order to produce lasting fruit with your life. I am the vine. Just stay connected to me. So I thought, in keeping with this botany theme, I would just take the word sap today and teach out a few key things that I'm learning that happens when you and I stay connected to the vine. The S in the word sap is going to stand for security. Security. That's what happens when you stay connected. You feel a sense of security. You know, identity theft is definitely on the rise in our tech-driven world. People are hacking passwords and stealing account numbers and personal information. But I think identity theft's been going on a long, long time. It has been a tactic of the enemy of our soul forever. In fact, he has hacked into me with these three big lies, maybe the same for you. I am what I have, I am what I do, and I am what people say about me. Three big lies he throws at us. I am what I have, I am what I do, and I am what people say about me. Anybody else buy those lies? So Jesus comes along and says, no, listen. Your true identity has nothing to do with any of that. Remain in me, and you'll be secure in who you really are. When you stay connected, you start to move through life with confidence in your identity as a much-loved child of God, and you recognize the lies because you've internalized the truth he has spoken about you. So you're able to say, oh, I know who I am. I'm God's child. I'm Christ's friend. I've been justified, redeemed. I've been qualified for heaven. I'm forever free from condemnation. I have not been given a spirit of fear, but one of power, love, and self-discipline. I'm a temple of God. I'm God's co-worker. I'm supernaturally gifted to make a difference in this world because I'm the salt of the earth. I'm the light of the world. I'm complete in Christ, and I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. That's the truth about me. Jesus tells us later in this passage, he says, let my words remain in you, or let my words make its home in you. And to do that, you might have to move some things around, even take some stuff to the dump so that his word feels at home in you. Because when his words take root in you, you don't buy the lies like you used to. You're not always chasing likes, and you're not always trying to get followers. You're not obsessed about collecting toys and trophies along the way because you already are accepted by the one who matters most. You know why you're here. You know who you are. You know where you're going. I'm telling you, having his word remain, stay, abide, dwell in you makes a huge difference. I may have told you before about my good friend Paul. He was my next door neighbor in Chicago, and just a good dude, but chasing everything but God to fill up that hole in his heart. And we established a really cool friendship along the way, and make a long story short, I got to baptize him. But then his past kind of crept up to bite him. Sometimes that happens. And he had to spend some time in prison. He was later exonerated for the crime, but he had to spend 3 years in a minimum security place. And we'd given him a brand new study Bible before he went off to spend his 3 years. And he said, listen, you got to believe me, I didn't do what they're telling me what they're accusing me of doing. I didn't do it. He goes, but there's a lot of other stuff in my life I did and never got caught for, so maybe this is payback for that. So I'm just going to take my new study Bible, and I'm going to spend like 3 years in seminary, and I'm just going to read God's word, and that's what he did. You ought to see his Bible. It's unbelievable. When he got out, he showed me his Bible. He read through the entire Bible like 3 or 4 times, and everything is highlighted. He's got things written in the margin. He had all these he took Post-it notes and made little tabs to put on different pages. And I said, Paul, what are all those blue tabs? He goes, oh, those are things I got to work on. I said, what about all those red things? He goes, that's all the things I got to work on after I'm done with the blue things. And everything was color coded. It was really cool. But I remember he told me, he said, you know what, it's crazy. It's in prison that I became so free, because his word found a home in my heart. Beth Moore says this, his word abiding in us frees us from the deceptions of the enemy, gives us a true assessment of ourselves, and keeps us in line with God's purposes and on the path of love. So Jesus says, let my words remain in you, and you will have truth to counteract all the lies that are coming at you. Let my words remain in you, and you will walk through life knowing that you are secure in my love. So the S in SAP stands for security. The A in SAP stands for awareness. Awareness. To remain in him is to live in the awareness of his presence every day, to know that he's not only with you, but catch this, he's in you. You might remember the old Gatorade campaign, the commercials where they would show these athletes, sculpted, ripped athletes. They're sweating different flavors of Gatorade. We're seeing this, got fierce melon coming off their forehead. They got grape coming out of their armpits. It was really, really gross. But they would throw up this question. They would go, is it in you? And as a guy that used to play sports his whole life, every time I would see those commercials, I would get so fired up. I go, yes, that's the answer to that. Yes, it is in me. Yes, I still got it. If I could somehow reach down deep into myself, it is in me. It ain't in me. I drink Gatorade to take Advil these days. That's the only reason I drink Gatorade. The same thing is true with trying to live this new life. If you haven't experienced it already, you will discover it's not in you. Our self did not come with the kind of power source to live the kind of life that God has promised that we could live. We need help beyond ourselves. I always shake my head when I walk through a bookstore and I see the section marked self-help. You may have heard me say this before, but self-help is such an oxymoron. Self can't help. If self-help could help, we wouldn't need self-help. Self is unpredictable. Self is unreliable. Self is untrustworthy. All self can help you do is dig yourself in a great big self-centered hole. If self-help really worked, then Jesus would have showed up on the earth, passed out gift cards to Barnes & Noble, saying, grab yourself a self-help book and a vanilla latte and have a great life. But instead, he says, listen, I am the vine, and you are the branches. If you want real help for yourself, then stay connected to me. Live in the awareness that I am in you. A connected life is a full life. I like what it says in Colossians chapter 1, verse 27. It says, to them, talking about the rescued ones, us, God has chosen to make known among the Gentiles. In other words, he's saying this good news is for everybody, from every race, every nation, every language. God has chosen to make known the glorious riches of this mystery, which is Christ in you. That's the hope of glory. Now, when it says the hope of glory, some think that means the hope of heaven. I think that's part of it, but I believe he's talking about the hope of a lifestyle. I think he's talking about the hope of lasting change, the hope of sobriety, the hope of sanity, the hope of flourishing and producing fruit and becoming God's best version of us. It's Christ in you. That's the only hope for any of that. Again, there's no hope for me saying, come on, bro, you don't need to stay connected to the vine. Be your own branch, dude. You're a smart guy. Come on, bear down. Just try harder. Just apply yourself. No, the hope of me ever living a God-honoring, flourishing kind of fruit-producing life is Christ in me. Now, I know this whole Christ in you might sound kind of strange. That's why Paul called it a mystery. But what we're talking about here is the supernatural presence of God's Spirit living inside of you. I'm talking about the same Spirit that pursued you day after day, trying to get you to see your need for God. I'm talking about the same Spirit who put people in your pathway, who showed you there might be some hope for a different kind of life. The same Spirit who gently began to convict you of your sin and your personal need for a Savior. The same Spirit that revealed to you that God is love and that you are the main object of that love. And when you choose to follow Jesus, that same Spirit takes up residence in you, stretching you and teaching you and molding you and sculpting you and encouraging you and comforting you and prompting and guiding you from the inside out every single day, all day long. And that's been so huge for me because I can't say, hey, Jesus, listen to me. I'm going to go into this place right now and do this really bad thing. So I want you to wait in a car. He goes, what? Wait in a car? That's impossible. I'm going with you because whether you remember it or not, I'm in you. So where you go, I go. So in regard to not giving in to temptation and old habits, I have found that living in the awareness of his presence in me is an absolute game changer. So when we keep the main thing, when we stay connected to him, the true vine, there's amazing life-changing sap that's running through us. There's security, there's awareness, and the P in sap stands for power. There's power. You ever get a game for Christmas and you got really excited about it and you want to play it right away, but there were those 3 words that changed everything? I'm not talking about some assembly required. Those are words for every Christmas Eve nightmare for any parent. But the 3 words that can shatter any kid's Christmas morning is what? Batteries not included, right? Because without the batteries, it's going to be a lame game. I remember one time I got Derek a remote control car one year. He was so excited. Man, he ripped into it and immediately wanted to play with it, but there were no batteries. And I explained how Santa was getting a little older and couldn't remember everything on the list. And sometimes Santa just forgets the batteries. But when there are no batteries, all the excitement that you have when you open the present goes away as quickly as it came. In order for the game to be all that it can be, there has to be a power source. Without it, man, it's just frustrating. You need to know something about this new life in Jesus Christ. It comes with a power source. Our Father did not forget. The batteries are included. He moves in and brings an energy that is this unending source of power. Jesus' good friend, a guy named Peter, writes this in 2 Peter chapter 1. As we know Jesus better, that's the key. As we know Jesus better, his divine power gives us what? everything we need for living a godly life. Ephesians 1 says, I pray that you will begin to understand the incredible greatness of his power for us who believe him. This is the same power. This is the same power that raised Christ from the dead and seated him in the place of honor at God's right hand in the heavenly realms. That same resurrection power is in you. The batteries are included. I'm talking about the power to make right decisions, the power to forgive when you don't feel like it. I'm talking about the power to walk away from temptation, the power to love an enemy, the power to let criticism bounce off of you, the power to say the right thing at the right time, the power to love unconditionally, the power to stare fear in the face and move ahead with courage. I'm talking about the power to stay sober another day, the power to handle bad news with this deep-seated joy and faith, the power to love the way you look despite what the culture defines beauty as, the power to set healthy boundaries in your life, the same power that changed water into wine, the same power that fed 20,000 people with a kid's Happy Meal, the same power that calmed an angry sea, the same power that blew a rock off a tomb and gave life back to a dead man is in you. So honestly, Gatorade, it ain't in me, but he is. And I'll take that any day. I love the way the Message translates Romans chapter 8. It says, it stands to reason, doesn't it, that if the alive and present God who raised Jesus from the dead moves into your life, he'll do the same thing in you that he did in Jesus, bringing you alive to himself. Because when God lives and breathes in you, and he does, as surely as he did in Jesus, catch this, you're delivered from that dead life. With his spirit living in you, your body will be as alive as Christ. So Jesus says, I am the vine. Remain in me. Stay connected to me. Live in the awareness of my presence in you, and you will have the power to live this life that flourishes and leaves a legacy. So I just want to remind you this week, keep the remain thing the main thing. Live in the awareness of God's presence in you. Instead of praying to God out there somewhere in the universe, start talking to him like you're actually doing your day together. I still got a long way to go, but man, that has changed everything for me. So this week, when you're at one of those crossroad moments, just start to walk the right direction and just start talking like he is in you. Say, okay, Jesus, I'm going to trust that your power is going to rise up in me as I remain in you because I don't want to walk down that old road anymore. I need your help today. Let's just do this day connected. Let's do this new life together. And I'm telling you, the amazing thing is you will have the power to walk a new direction. And you'll be saying, hey, I can't believe this, man. Look at me. I'm actually walking a different direction. He's helping me. Like he really is. I didn't know I could walk away from stuff because I've always tried it on my own strength. But man, I feel like power now because I'm connected to the vine. I feel like his sap is running through me. I'd be crazy to ever sever this connection. So I'm just going to keep the remain thing the main thing today and see what kind of fruit he might produce in my life. You know, the last few weeks together in this series have revealed a whole lot about God. And through these different I am statements of Jesus, we have seen that God is strong and that God is active and God is alive and God is full of love and compassion. We've seen that God is a healer and that God is a freedom giver. He's an addiction breaker. And God is a lover of our soul. And I can't tell you how excited I am to be a part of mission. Even though I teach at a bunch of different churches, this is home for my wife and I. And I'm excited about mission because there are communities of people all around us that have all kinds of questions about God. People who in the depth of their soul want to know him. Because God, whether you realize it or not, he wired all of us up with that desire. And a lot of people are asking, where is God? And what's he like? Is there anybody out there that's seen him? I mean, like, how do I find him? Does he care? Like what's his name? We all have questions. And maybe you've wondered, who's going to make sure that good will eventually prevail over evil? And Jesus says, I am. Is there really any truth out there I am. Oh, well, what if my husband does walk out? And who's going to take care of us? I am. What if the chemo isn't enough? I am. Is there any hope for me? I am. Who's crazy enough, who's smart enough to figure out this crazy life of mine? I am. I desperately need something fresh in my life. I am. Leaders are dropping like flies. Is there anybody out there who's real? I am. Nobody's listening. I am. Who's going to stay with me in this big empty house now? I am. I'm going under. Somebody help. I am. My family deserves so much more. I am. This world is such a mess. Who will ever fix it? I am. Always have been. Always will be. It's my name. I am. Father, thank you so much for the truth of that. Thank you that you are the eternal Father, and that, Jesus, you are the exact representation of that eternal God. And it has been so life-giving over the past few weeks to recognize who you are, the great I am, who is a shepherd, a door, a gate, the way to true life, that you're living water, that you're the bread of life, that you are the light of the world, and that you are the life-giving source. You are the vine. And Jesus, we just want to stay connected to you so that your energy, your power, your goodness, your faithfulness, your love, your joy, your peace, all that stuff could run through us, in us. Thank you so much for revealing all this to us over the past few weeks. And I pray that we will always keep the main thing with you. And it's in your name we pray. Amen.